الدكتور احمد عوا، استاذ جامعه اسكندريه، استاذ طب اسكندريه، وهيكلمنا عن البيزكس بتاع البامب ثيرابي.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad, for the introduction. Thank you, Dr. Sameh, for the kind invitation. Well, congratulations for the great attendance and the very strong program. Thank you for the co-chairperson. Today, inshallah, I'm going to speak about basics of insulin pump therapy. Here is my disclosure. I'm going to go through introduction with the rationale of use of insulin pump, and then I will give highlights about the insulin pump concepts and uses, then integration between insulin pump and continuous glucose monitoring, and at the end, what are the benefits behind the use of technology in diabetes control. Since the start of insulin, discovery of insulin maybe 100 years ago, all the efforts are towards mimic the pancreas and controlling the diabetes properly. And to mimic pancreas, we use what we call the basal bolus model. We have lots of injectable insulins, basal insulins, peakless insulins, all analogs available in the insurance even, and bolus insulin trying to be near the physiologic insulin. And all the concept about the basal and bolus, percentage of basal of the bolus, roughly speaking, basal stands for 40% of the total daily dose, and bolus about 60% for the total daily dose. Daily dose, it can move up or down accordingly. And all the ways to deliver the insulin from the syringe, including the pens, digital pens, smart pens, and till the use of the pump, all these are ways to deliver insulin. Why we need to exert all these efforts to properly control diabetes? This happens after the cornerstone study 1993, the DCCT, which correlated the less complication to the proper control. So the best control of diabetes will hinder and decrease the complications. More than 80% of the complication can be declined. So all the efforts, maybe even earlier than the DCCT trial, to give a more accurate, convenient monitoring and delivery of insulin through the continuous glucose monitoring and the use from the very old pumps till the current smart pumps. Comparing the basal bolus MDI, multiple daily injection, and the use of insulin pump stands for continuous subcutaneous insulin injection. So I'm injecting the insulin continuously, subcutaneously by a pumping device or machine. So in generally, so to compare between the use of MDI or the pump, in the MDI, I'm injecting long-acting insulin. In the pump, I don't use any long-acting insulin, continuously pumping short-acting insulin like the pancreas is doing. When you inject the long-acting insulin, you cannot interrupt it because it will last for the coming 24 hours. While I'm using the pump, I can interrupt the basal anytime. I can change the percentage of the dose delivered as basal insulin, while the precise dose of insulin can be as low as by the pump 0.025 units, which 1/10 of the quarter of the unit, which while the least dose I can deliver through the MDI is 0.5 units only. While with the pump, the child will have an attached device, while with the MDI, there is no attached device. So generally, what are the indications for the insulin pump use? For me, there is no indication. Everyone is eligible. Only contraindication to the use of the pump. Everyone from 0 day is eligible to use the pump as long as this child or this person is insulin dependent. So, but you need to have a proper indication to have good expectation and to be real about the expectation from the pump. It's a way of delivering insulin precisely, and to make some assessment to assess the readiness of the child to be ready for inserting the pump, the commitment of the child, knowing how to do carb counting, familiar with the technology, healthcare personnel is expert in the use of technology, and committed children. And you do whatever assessment. This assessment is not guideline assessment. You can do it yourself. You can give the scores, and then you allow, as like the traffic signal, to allow or give more education, or you will not allow for the use of pump. So the contraindication is are insufficient motivation to be committed to do glucose monitoring by self-monitoring or by continuous glucose monitoring. You are not motivated to do proper carb counting. You are not motivated to deal with the technology, interact with the pump, respond to the instructions and commands of the pump. If you are using continuous glucose monitoring needs calibration, you need to do the proper calibration. So if not committed, you are not eligible for the pump. So if you have all what I mentioned, realistic expectation, comfortable with technology, committed, you understand the use and the use of insulin, and you adjust based on the exercise or based on the reading, and you have the healthcare team who are familiar with the use of technology, and you are happy with attached device like this lady who attached the pump all through the competition of Miss USA 2014, and she said here, we all have something that doesn't measure up to beauty standards. That's okay. It doesn't make you any less beautiful. So if you are happy to display the pump to others and you are happy with attached device, go for the pump. So what is the pump? Pump is external programmable device, continuously deliver insulin in a dose which is previously set by the doctor. The setting of the basal insulin and the bolus insulin require input data of the bolus, because you put the carb counting and you put the current RBS as well, and it's about the size of the mouse of the computer. It operates by AAA battery. It can be modified later on with other versions, and holds from 200 to 300 units of insulin. It uses only rapid-acting insulin. There is no use anymore for long-acting insulin, and it will deliver the insulin in a way of a basal and bolus. The basal is changeable. You can change the basal every half an hour. It's very obsessive to make 48 basals, but these are the options you can do with the pump. While if you inject the MDI basal, it will last the same dose, equally evenly distributed over the day, over 24 hours. Some advanced features as well. For the basal, we have some advanced features. You can temporarily change the rate of the basal. You can increase it in the sick days or menstrual days. You can decrease it during exercise, and you can make some basal patterns as well. For the bolus, you have to be familiar with the carb counting. You put the carb count to the pump. The pump will calculate based on what we call the insulin carbohydrate ratio, and it will correct the high blood sugar based on what has been fed to the setting as the insulin sensitivity factor or the correction factor. And it can give the bolus as precise as low as 0.025 unit. And all the bolus depends on the count of the carbs. We aim at the carbohydrates. We are not aiming for the calories. It's only the carbohydrate. So you should have some weighing measure machines or measuring for the liquid or reading the label. And you have to be familiar with that to put the proper amount of the carbohydrate. Otherwise, it will be of negative effect. If you put wrong data, you will have wrong dose. Some advanced features as well for the bolus. It can happen with the pump, that the pump can give you the regular bolus, the spike one bolus, or it can extend the same dose of bolus over 1 or 2 or 3 hours, whatever the way the decision you are making, if this bolus is going to be consumed evenly over 2 hours, or there is a case of gastroparesis, or it can be dual. BART can be delivered now, and the BART is going to be extended over the coming 2 or 3 hours, and this decision mainly in the fatty meals. So you cannot do this with the pen. It's going to be inserted to what we call infusion set. This infusion set is going to be changed every 2 to 3 days, roughly speaking 3 days. Can be earlier for younger age to be 2 days, or 3 days will be okay. We hope for the 7-day infusion set, which is promised by companies but still not in market. You need to rotate, but remember that every single site is going to be used for 3 days, so it's easy not to have any hypertrophy. And it can be with tubes, like the most of the pumps in the market, including the Medtronic we are using here, and the Tandem, and it can be tubeless pump like the Omnibud. It's not familiar here, but it's very without tubes, and it can be covered easily like this cute girl. You have to have the backup plan. Any technology failure might happen, so you have to have the backup plan and get updated for the dose updates about how much you are using currently for the basal and the bolus. Compliance is very important. That's why we said there are contraindications. Some patients are not compliant. They are not feeding the pump with any information. So you need to change the infusion set every 3 days. Otherwise, the consumption of insulin and the accuracy of insulin delivery will be affected. And you need to react properly with the pump during sick days or during the highs. And you should suspect blockage of the infusion set and react timely before developing any decay. The other partner to the pump is the continuous glucose monitoring. The need for the continuous glucose monitoring, that the discrete readings, what you don't know what's happening in between, like these curves, that in between good readings you might have highs or low, and the excursions correlated with the complications. Hemoglobin A1c is limited to define the excursions, and the same hemoglobin A1c can be found with the high excursion or steadiness of the glucose levels. That's why we need to monitor this through the subcutaneous tissue fluid glucose calibrated against the blood glucose. This calibration can be at factory or can be done by the patient. Now, these sensors last for 7 to 14 days. Most of the sensors in the market will not need any calibration. We'll collect data every 1 to 5 minutes. There are new metrics about the use of continuous glucose monitoring to define what's good. What's good means time in range between 70 to 180 in more than 70% of the time, and above 180 less than 25%, and below 70 less than 5%. And the sensor will give more information to the parents, whether used with the pump or not, about the trend arrows, and will make more adherence, respond to the readings. And of course, automation of the sensor with the pump is a golden benefit from integration of the sensor and the pump. So the pump is going to be integrated with the sensor through algorithm and many levels of integration, what we call the automated insulin delivery. This pass through many stages that only the sensor can give order to the pump to suspend whenever the glucose is low, or suspend if predicted to go to the low, or the sensor can give order to the pump to change the basal dose, or the sensor can give order to the pump to change the basal dose as well, to give many correction. So for the basal adjustment, this was the MiniMed 670, and currently the automated basal and mini correction with the MiniMed 670G, and the other brands will be the Control IQ and the Tandem, and the Insulin 5 with the Insulin 5 with the Omnibud. These are not FDA approved, while in market and use what we call type 1 do-it-yourself. So some people did looping by themselves. They put the algorithm device by themselves and they close the loop between the pump and the sensor, but it's still not FDA approved, but widely used now. The pump and the technology allowed us to do the virtual clinics because most of the technologies and the companies, they have a digital platform so you can remotely access all the data of the patient and give the proper advice. So the summary of treatment options will be MDI using only self-monitoring blood glucose or MDI using continuous glucose monitoring. I will need 1 or 2 minutes maximum. Or using the pump while you are using only the self-monitoring of blood glucose. And it's very important to have the tool to deliver a more precise insulin. And even if you know about the continuous glucose monitoring that you need to do something and you cannot deliver this action through the MDI, it will be a limitation. Pump can be used with continuous glucose monitoring, not integrated with each other, or integrated pump with continuous glucose monitoring, what we call the automated insulin delivery. All these efforts towards to achieve the control, to reduce the complications as much as you can. And this what have been said by my professor, says Dr. Ashraf Tawfiq, after a lecture like this, that he said, subhanallah, at the end, all these efforts trying to mimic a single beta cell, and still they couldn't achieve properly or near even what's natural, subhanallah. So at the end, we need to change our perception to technology. We need to learn more so you can believe in technology and drive the market and the patients to accept and apply. And as well, at the end, you are going to drive the leaders and the decision-making to make investment in such technologies. What's coming next to close the loop through FDA-approved devices, and I think it's going to happen very soon. At the end, we are working in a multidisciplinary team, and your belief in technology is going to apply all these benefits can be delivered. So insulin pump therapy provides a more precise, convenient way of diabetes control. Hybrid closed loop is going to deliver proper control at a more convenient and precise way. Remote monitoring can happen with the digital platforms of all these companies, and healthcare providers need to read more reports, get familiar with the data provided to decide better for their patients. As you see, there is no age limit for the use of technology, so we can use the technology from now at any age, and you cannot convince even this infant to go for this device. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Ahmed Alawa, for the excellent lecture.